Welcome to one of my favorite spots in Roppongi, Japan. But that's not the topic of the video today. We're going to discuss how has teaching in Japan taught me. And the first thing up I wanted to discuss was the malleability of children. You always hear about how incredibly impressionable kids are, and we take that as a truism, as a granted, but having finally seen here firsthand in circumstances where you really get this illustrated, wow, do I believe it like I never had before. And the way that I've seen this is, especially because I deal with younger kids, kids are always impressionable up until their teens and beyond, people are, but especially so when you're in elementary school. And I see this a lot because I teach each class with a different teacher. And the profound effect that the homeroom teacher has on each class is unmistakable. And the examples I have for this are quite interesting. So you can have a class, for example, I had these grade 3s. In the previous year, absolute hell. Like, you've never seen kids so rowdy, misbehave, never listen. You gotta yell over them. There's no way to retain control of the classroom. And I thought, oh, maybe this is just the way it is. I got to accept this. They are really young, so there's only so much they're beholden to their behavior, right? But then the following year, this year, they have a new teacher. And it was when they're in grade 2. Now they're in grade 3. And with this teacher, I could see the change almost immediately. She's one of my favorite teachers. And it was not an overnight thing. It took time. It was day by day by day by day, until now they're unrecognizable as a class. They're immaculate. They went from being one of the worst classes in the school to one of the absolute best that I have ever dealt with. They're a joy. And it's all because, well, first, they're incredibly malleable. And second, that they had an incredible homeroom teacher who turned it around. So it's another way that I think you can kind of be more objective of the behavior of the people that you're with, because you won't hold them so responsible when you realize that the way that they're behaving is largely dictated by the person who's leading them. I've seen kids become angels, I've seen angels become demons, and this means then that you can feel like, as much as it's really, really useful to have a good homeroom teacher, your behavior then really, really matters towards them. Kids understand energy. It's another truism. And if you apply this when you're here, then you'll probably have a way better experience of it. And I would say if you apply this as well with people in general, understand that we're all kind of feeding off of each other's energy, and as a result of that, we're all going to behave differently depending on who it is that we're with. I've taken us on a route here where I didn't exactly know where I was going, so got a little bit hectic there. But those are my thoughts regarding the malleability of children. Next, I would say that the biggest thing that teaching has taught me is to observe the culture as I see it, as I have in my day-to-day, and that I've learned how much it's not just some stereotype. It's really true just how different the cultures are, and I see this a lot with the kids. The way that I see the kids behave with each other, it's kind of they're getting their initial imprint of cultural values, and they really, really stick. Of course, at this point, as I just mentioned, they're so incredibly malleable. And they even have in Japan, one of their subjects is moral education. I cannot remember, I just learned that word, and I can't remember exactly what it is. And moral education teaches them how to behave morally. Surprise. And I really think, and I've come to appreciate that between the two cultures, between Western and Eastern, what's really important is first, that they both exist, and second, that they are in dire need of each other. The pure, truly selfless nature of the Japanese is a sight to behold, with the way that the kids look after each other, with the way that they're responsible for their school, with the way that they clean up after each other, with the way that if one of them's hurt, they're all hurt. It seems like something out of a Star Trek episode. They're like psychically linked. But it's true. And it's really, really amazing. But at the same time, I see the sort of cultural weaknesses in the legit, real shyness that affects so many of these kids, because they're told to not stick out. They're told to belong to a group, to be a sort of social cohesion. And I can see then the benefit in our culture in the West, in North America, and maybe I wouldn't say that we have like the market cornered on this sort of like individualistic behavior that we find there, but that's what we got. And both of these things alone are incredibly weak, I think. You see really strong imbalances in personality. But when you combine these two, when you have the person who's able to be selfless and altruistic, and you have the person who's able to at the same time be a strong individual, stand up for themselves, have strong beliefs, follow through with them on a moral grounds, it's really, really amazing. And so the next thing that teaching has taught me is that they are two incredibly distinctive cultures, not just by some stereotype, and that these cultures benefit greatly from exposure to each other. Now lastly, what I would discuss falls under the sort of let it be philosophy. That's what I'm going to call this one. So I've touched on how malleable the kids are, how they change, and that's depending on the person who's leading them, their homeroom teacher, the people who are creating the strongest influence in their lives. But then there are these classes, there are these instances where no matter the person, no matter the teacher, it just so happens that they got one of these classes that absolutely hates, and I mean despises, English. And I've had these. I think they're inevitable. And I had kids like, what is the word? Jigoku. Jigoku means hell. I've had them, they're like, yeah, ego jikoku dana. Like, yeah, dane. Like, they hated it. And I understand that in some contexts because I hated language when I was younger. But I kept thinking, if they got a decent teacher and I'm teaching decent lessons, why, when they're supposed to be so malleable, won't they be fixed? But then, just this year, I would say in the last 4 classes that I've had, completely and utterly, out of nowhere, I may have upped my game a little bit with my lessons, but I'm not going to take credit for this change because of that. But about 3 or 4 lessons, it all suddenly switched. And these really rebellious, hateful, angry little kids, I didn't know why they were so angry, suddenly started to enjoy the lessons. And one of the girls who specifically called the class hell, she called me over at one point, one of the lessons, and was like, Dave Sensei, I took the Eiken Go-Q, the 5th level of the Eiken English test, and I passed, and so did this other guy in the class. I was like, weren't you the little girl before who was telling me that English is hell? And now all of a sudden you're telling me how you've taken these extracurricular English tests and you're passing them and you're passing that information along to me? That's absolutely incredible. I'm so happy for you, and I'm so relieved that I don't have to be so nervous when I go into these classes assuming that all the kids are going to hate what's going to happen in the next 45 minutes. And what that taught me was that just let it be. There are these situations where you'll go looking for an answer, looking for an answer, looking for an answer, but there isn't one, and there doesn't need to be. And if you're simply patient and you focus specifically on that some things will be immutable until they're not, that a solution may arise when you least expect it. You're going to be able to go about your daily, and at the end of it, say like I did, 3 or 4 lessons through, and then all will be well. Don't freak out. Let it be. All right, so I hope you like the video. Hope you like touring around Roppongi. I always enjoy this area. I don't even know where I am now. So please do drop a like. Please do subscribe if you enjoyed the video. If you consider supporting me on Patreon, that means the world to me, because it allows me to continue to grow and to continue to bring you new fun content like this. But for now, the clock has run out. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.